can we be too hot for our own good? Can being hot be bad somehow? Because obviously, it looks like we all want to be more hot all the time. Even if you're hot already, you want to be more hot, more attractive, more everything. I'm gonna go with yes. There are drawbacks to being hot, for sure. Just like any freaking attribute that we have, right? We can get kind of like too into it. We can identify with it too much. We can think that's us, or that's why we are worth something. That's kind of the key to it, I think. That's where we get our worth if we're good at something. Good, quote unquote. The thing about having our looks be that is that we hear it all the time. It's not something in here, not some skill that we have. It's not something that we use to achieve something, to accomplish. Like, well, you can use your looks to achieve and accomplish. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to build a shed in the backyard with your looks. You know, you might attract a mate. You might attract a big social circle. But the thing is that we hear it all the time, and from a young age. So if you popped out of the womb and you have certain like looks, certain attributes in your physical appearance, such that people tell you, people think 99.9% of the population thinks that you're attractive or hot, you will hear it a lot. So it's like almost like you're forced into this like identification with your body and its shape, what it looks like. You're like forced into it by everybody. You're not living in a vacuum. You're gonna get feedback about how you look. So, I mean, I knew a guy once, super hot dude. He would hear, I would walk around with him, he's like my friend. I'd walk around with him and like someone, would, you'd be at a store or something. Person at the register would be like, you should be a model. Are you a model? Imagine hearing that like every day. And lo and behold, he was very into his looks. He was very identified with his body and the way that he looked. And it colored everything. It was the way that he, saw the world, like through that lens. It's like, oh my God. And then what happens? Then what happens when you age? Then what happens when the shape of your body changes and suddenly you're like not all that attractive anymore? How do you handle it? Like, do you have something to fall back on? You got some other thing that you get worth from inside yourself? Like, are you also a really nice person who's made friends and all this stuff? And can your relationships weather this storm? Because sometimes you have a bunch of relationships that are also based on people wanting to be with you because you're hot. And then what happens when you're not hot anymore? It's like, oh my God. What happens if you're not wanted for that anymore? Say you're a model or whatever, and that stops at a certain point. Whenever society freaking thinks that you're too old or too whatever, it stops, and then what? I knew someone else, also super hot, when she was, younger, clearly hot. When she got older, looked in the mirror and was like, what happened to my face? She told me that she actually said that out loud to herself. Like, oh my God. Well, nothing happened to it. What are you talking about? We got whole industries based on this fear, this thing that happens to people. Like, oh my God, you're aging, your face is changing, you want to stay as hot as you always were. Oh my God. And it can happen with age, or like even in my case, I'm not saying that I was like super hot when I was younger, but I was attractive enough to hear it a few times, to think that I was like, relatively attractive when I was like 20. And then I got a brain tumor and had brain surgery. And suddenly I was not very attractive anymore. I mentioned this in other videos, but like, half my face was paralyzed. It moves a little bit now. It's completely paralyzed after surgery for like months, and then it slowly came back. But I was not hot. Okay? You are not hot after brain surgery. I was not hot. And that was like one of the massive reasons why like that was so devastating and hard to face for me. Because I had actually kind of identified with my shape. And, thought that was wonderful. Thought that gave me some worth. But luckily I also had other things to fall back on. I wasn't just like, that wasn't my main source of self-worth. But it can also happen like this. You can get unattractive at any moment. The risk is always there. And how do we handle that? When we're completely told constantly that is where our worth comes from childhood. Oh my God. Beautiful, very beautiful people. Oh my God. I feel for you. Now I have a child. I have two. I have to consciously rein it in because I know this stuff, or I believe it. I do not tell them how amazingly beautiful I think they are. Constantly. I do tell them. But man, am I aware of this, like, trap or this issue. I do not want this burden to be on them. It's a freaking burden. And you can do this with any attribute. Like if you're amazing at piano, you'll hear that a lot. But at least that's something that you got through a lot of effort, through a lot of trying, and then you get reinforcement. You're a really good pianist. Wow. You must have practiced so hard for years to accomplish that. With looks, you just have it. You just have it. You can work at it to improve it, of course. But there's also you just have it. And so many people are going to tell you, oh my God, you're so, wow. They have this reaction to you. It's like, you know what I mean? But I think the big problem with it is that you have to fight. It's like you have to brawl. You need to have people in your on your team telling you, like, yo, this is not your primary source of worth. This is not why you are an amazing person. This is not why you're a miraculous human being. Yeah, sure, you're hot, great. That will get you certain things in life, but that is not the goal, okay? And it's gonna shift. And everybody, it's like everybody's out in the world. Just look on the internet, trying to be more hot, teaching everyone else how to be more hot, more attractive, more. It's like, okay. It's just like we're barking up the wrong tree here. with if some kid's into science, chemistry, or whatever, and is like pursuing that so hard in their own life, they don't go to the store and like hear someone tell them or say they have natural ability to be a scientist or whatever. They don't go to the store and have a person like give them their sandwich and be like, oh my God, you're an amazing scientist. Like, you gotta be a scientist. They're not doing that. That's the difference. So it's the amount of pressure that like hot people have on them in one way or another. Like, oh my God, too much. You can't fly under the radar. You can't have any like peace. People are always just like judging you by how you're looking. If they do it in a positive way, it's a lot of pressure. If they do it in a negative way, like, oh my God, you're so ugly, oftentimes you don't hear that. Or it gives you a different sort of sense of identity. And maybe that's also an opportunity to disidentify from your looks, which could be a plus. In any case, hot people, I feel for you. I'm wishing you well in this hard world where being hot is given too much weight. You are worth something outside your hotness. I'm wishing you well. Thanks.